Welcome back, everybody. This week's video is about the Falcon. What are we doing? We're switching it up a lot. Putting a 347 and a TKX in it. The 347 I got off my buddy Mike. I was going to put in a 55 Fairlane. After doing the Midwest drags, we had a ball. Want to do it again next year. Need to learn how to drive the car better. Had the 5-speed. Got an AOD. Looked into building an AOD to put in it. May still do that eventually in the 55, but for now the C4 331 will work in the 55. With some nitrous. I've always wanted to try nitrous, so we're going to give it a try. Nitrous in the Falcon, not so well. Doing these drag and drives, I didn't want to have something that was hard on the motor. I wanted to make it dependable and easy going. 5-speed with a clutch, not so dependable, not so easy going, but seems to be a little bit better than a AOD at this time for the prices. So we had to redo the whole inside of the car. We had to move our cup holder, console, gauge holder. Took out the gauge cluster. We decided to try to lighten it up a little bit inside while we're doing this. Doing away with some stuff we didn't need in there. That big heavy Comet gauge cluster and whatnot. We got to cut the wheel wells a little more. They rub just a hair. I know what I want to do with that. I don't know if I'll have it done by this weekend. I want to take the car to the Rebel Rousers run and the cruise they do on Friday. So I got to get my fat ass in gear and get busy. But it is a 347 trick flow cylinder heads. We changed the fuel system, changed the cooling system. We changed just about everything on the whole stinking car in 2 weeks. Roughly. But if you like what you see, have any comments, any ideas, let us know. Remember, like and subscribe, Side Money Garage. Thank you. Alright, so we got our intake all cleaned up out there. We got our intake gaskets stuck. I use a little copper spray to stick them so they don't move on me. Some people use nothing. Some people use silicone. Some people reuse their intake gaskets. I'll put silicone on the end caps there and get ready to set that intake down. But we're going to get some right stuff, silicone or whatever, and give it a couple beads, and then that'll be on. We'll have an intake manifold on there. That'll be step one of step one. Progress. It's looking good. So far, so good. Alright, I'm going to put the silicone down and drop an intake. We'll see what happens. Alright, it's Saturday morning. We're going to get this engine up higher so we can work on the freeze plugs and start getting it ready to switch over the Falcon to a 5-speed and a 347. We got the intake all mounted on last night before we left. It should be ready to go, hopefully. We're going to put the lift plate on here so we can lift this up, put it on top of that table over there, and have something where I can work on it a little more comfortably. Then we got to take all this wiring off, wipe it all down, do the water pump and the stuff on the front, check and make sure top dead center number 1 is top dead center on there, on the balancer, and we're ready to go. Okay, so we're back to work. It's Sunday morning. We're going to try to get the front of this motor buttoned up. This is the 347 we're putting in the Falcon with the 5-speed. We got to get the electric water pump front on there. Alternator brackets, all that sort of stuff, crankshaft pulley. We got to fix some freeze plugs. We got to get all this crazy wiring off of here. I don't know what he had going on there. Get this off so we can get it ready to put in the car. We got to get some more spark plugs for it. Little things. So let's get this ready to put in. See what we can come up with here. We got a lot to do, so let's get this cleaned up and get it in there. We're going to start off by cleaning up the plate for the electric water pump. It goes right here. And getting it on there. Alright, we're figuring out how to fit the water pump. We got to find one more bolt. And we got to find the stuff for the alternator bracket. That bad mammer jammer goes right here. Sort of somewhere. Like this. I don't remember which way exactly, but I'll figure it out as I get all the pieces. So we're going to start gathering up some pieces to bolt this on all the way. We got to find one more bolt, and then we got to find all the brackets for the alternator. She's coming. Alright. Oh. Just take and scrape all this crud off of here. This is pretty basic. Everyone scraped the gasket. That. Here we go. Use some of China's best razor blades. I don't even know if it said China. It said China. Because there ain't much left made in America. That a dent? A little bit, huh? So basically, we gotta clean this for the electric water pump. And then reinstall it. We used to have a 302 and a Mercury Meteor with an electric water pump. It worked out pretty good. So now we're gonna see if this one will work out. Which it should. Boy, I don't know who. Oh, that's not paint. That's gasket material, I guess. Shiny stuff, clear coat maybe. That is weird. Looks like clear coat on there. Huh, that's weird. I'd have never thought this thing was clear coated. But apparently it is. So now we got the gist of how to clean this up. So I'm going to keep cleaning this and get ready to... Okay, we're getting this motor together. We ran into a little snag here. So we got to modify a water pump to do what we want. This is, I don't know the brand. I think it's just a cheapo Summit brand electric water pump. And it does not have provisions for the bypass hose. So we are going to tear one apart and see if we can make some provisions for the bypass hose, I guess. That's the plan, at least. So we're going to take this all apart and see if we can drill and tap it to hold what we want. I've had one of these apart before. I think it's just O-rings. Yeah, so it's easy to put back together. A little bit of lube. They don't make the gasket though, if you ever take it off, which really sucks. I've never had the back off of one of these before, so we're about to see what that's like inside. I have a plan. And we'll see if it'll work. It's either gonna work flawlessly or fail miserably. We have two of these. We're only gonna tear up one for starters. And this is more work than we wanted to do to this, but there's the piece we need that part out. That's the motor and the pump. There's both of those. There's that. So on. So what my thought is, I want to tap a hole right here to run my bypass. If I can get a hole in this, right here, I can run my bypass. Then I can put this all back together. I suppose I could probably even maybe come out, well, the back looks kinda, they're both kinda tapered. But the back would be ideal, run it right up there, but that's pretty tight. I think right there would be the best bet in the front. So I'm going to try to tap a hole. That baby's on there, right there. That's my goal. I'm going to get my plug, my fitting, and see if I can figure out where I want to drill my hole and how big of a hole, and make sure I got a tap for it. And I'm just going to put a 90 sticking straight up, sorta, to attach my water pump bypass hose. And it will just suck water out of there, bypass it right to where it needs to go, hopefully. because it doesn't look like there's anything special in there. Water comes in here. Other than it's got to be that big. It's a pretty big fucking hole. So it's going to take water in from there and out there. That is really big. Theoretically, this is all in. Theoretically, I think that should work. If it doesn't, we can at least plug it off. Or we can see what we got for there. Alright. Alright, so here's our mark. We're going to put a hole right there. We're going to thread it and put this in there like so. I was going to do the back side, but I'm doing the front side instead. That way, if it doesn't work, I can just pull it out and put a plug in it. I don't have to remove the whole water pump assembly. So I think that's how I'm going to go. Alright, there's our first hole. We got to do a lot more, but we're going to step it up a notch. Alright, we got a 43/64 or something like that hole. So hopefully we can tap that hole to this here. If not, we might have to make it a touch bigger. But we're going to see what we can do here. We got the drill. Alright, there, we got that disaster. We put a little bit of slickum on these threads. Try to help it out a little. I thought I had it, just bought some cutting oil. Must be at the house. Put a little PB blaster in there. Maybe. Help it out also. Alright, so got our hose fitting mounted on our water pump. Good to go. Now, we got to make these gaskets for the plate. Which I believe have to go this way. Get an ink pen. We're gonna trace these holes into there to make our gaskets. Alright, there's our homemade little gaskets. Next we gotta mount the water pump. We got our bypass hose fitting mounted. All should be good. So next we'll mount the water pump, but first we're going to go see what Kyle's doing. Alright, it's Tuesday. Welcome back, everybody. We're doing studs. We're going from here to here. We got to have something sticking out past our lug nuts. We got our alternator figured out. All that's done. Water pump. Everything on the front of the motor is done. This motor's out. There, over there, is the master cylinder and the clutch master cylinder. Today we're going to bleed the brakes, but before we do that, I want to put the long wheel studs on and get those done. Then we're going to bleed the brakes, mount that, start mounting some things and getting some work done here. So, onward and upward, let's get something done. Alright, so we have installed the Moroso EF5 return line kit in our tank. It's right here. That is it. It ain't coming out. Right there is where our return hose is going to be. This little guy. Right down there is where our return hose is going to go. And that will be our return line for our fuel pump. Now we're going to take out the battery. Get the battery tray unbolted, I believe, so we can get the 4 bolts that hold the tranny cooler out. And then we're going to take one of these relays off. I believe the back one back there. We're going to take that relay out because we don't need it no more for the tranny cooler. We no longer are running a tranny cooler with a fan. So that relay will come off. We'll save the fuel pump relay and then we'll put the battery back in. I'll probably have Kyle do that. He's here learning. He wants to work on cars a little bit and learn a little, so we'll let Kyle tackle that and we'll see how he does when he's done. While we're doing that, I'm going to go put the pedals in so we can get ready to bleed the brakes. Oh, there's the clutch pedal assembly. The pedals are all in. Now we got to bleed the brakes and put the motor in. She's coming one piece at a time. Alright, it's Wednesday. We're getting ready to put the motor in. Took out the old center console. Took out the gauge cluster. We're redoing all that. Yeah. About that. And then we're going to take and put the gauges up there. We're going to leave the tach, I think, because it's pretty small. So we're not going to try to shove a tachometer down there too. We'll leave the tach. We're going to put all the gauges right there. Shifter will be right there. We're going to use that, hopefully that shifter mount for the cup holder. If not, that thing will be getting cut off. But for now, this is what we needed so we can get the motor and tranny in. Now we're going to go out there and we're going to do the freeze plugs and get this baby done. We got the brake pedal done. We got the studs in the front. The lug nuts are all being switched over to Moroso. Long studs and long lugs. And hopefully all this extra weight, all this chrome, we can make this thing a little bit lighter. Well, back to work. Alright, it's Saturday morning, everybody. We got to get this Falcon going. We got our 347 in there. It's actually bolted in. Transmission's bolted in. We got our hole cut through the floor where the shifter's going to come through. Now we're working on a gauge panel. Because we had to take our center console piece out, so we got to do some modifying in there. I think I know what I'm doing. Or going to try to do, I guess. I don't know what I'm doing, but I know what I'm going to try to do. I made a template. It doesn't fit in there too bad, so now I'm going to trace it to some stuff. I don't know if I'm going to use aluminum or plastic. I have plastic that matches the door panels. I might try that first. So I'm going to get to tracing this and see if I can do what I want to do. Alright, so here's our gauge panel. We cut it out of some scrap aluminum. We test fit it. And it's not too god-awful bad. It'll do what we need it to do. So we're going to put some bends in it right here and right here. Get it to touch a little. I don't like this area. We might file that down a little. But so far it looks good. I like it. Then we got to figure out the center and place our gauges in it. See how it goes. I think this will work. I'm going to put a little bend here and see if it fits a little bit tighter. And we'll go from there. Alright, so this is the top of my gauge layout. This will be the top. I'll have a high beam light, a turn signal, oil pressure, temperature gauge, a gas gauge, and an FR gauge. That's it. Speedometer will be in the ashtray. And the ignition box tuning switches will be where the radio was. I want to start hooking up the stuff under the hood. And while no one's here bugging me, I thought I would try to knock this out. So now I gotta drill some holes and see what it looks like. That'll be next. Well, we got our dash panel made. It's okay for race car shit. We got our ignition box right there so you can adjust it without laying on your head. It's fat guy friendly. We might have to touch up. I might paint them bolts black. Maybe. I might paint the bolts black. I'm not 100% sure yet. It doesn't bother me, but nothing on this car is very aesthetic to the eye. So now we got to mount our voltmeter with our phone charger here. And the electric water pump switch is going to go right there. Then we're going to redo the tack. That tack seems to be kind of funky, I guess. So we're going to redo that, put a different one in, change it around a bit, I guess. Don't want to, because the other one, I think I got to drill holes in the dash, and I was trying to avoid that. But looks like that's happening. No, it's not beautiful. No, it's not nice. No, it's not pretty. It gets the job done. Simple.